Welcome back to the third video in our series on creating first drafts for Project 1 of typography. In our last video, we covered swatches, how to get spot color swatches. We'll cover cyan, magenta, yellow, black, or Pantone process swatches at a later date. We also covered how to apply a tint to the swatch or to the object. We covered layers. We covered importing text and building the document. We covered how you might manage a background color or a background image. And we imported the text in the 3-column grid. Okay? So now we're ready to move on to the headline type, and also including a graphic inside the hand that would be the symbol. So I'm going to place a graphic. Now I'm going to hit W again, and I like to use the Pasteboard. Let me fix this so you can see me scrolling here. I'm going to place in my artwork layer file, place, Command D for Mac, Control D for PC, the cough. The letter form that was originally used by the Phoenicians. Now, I have either a vertical evolution or horizontal evolution of how this cough or our modern day K came about. So I think I'll just use the horizontal. There it is. Open it, place it. Now, I have this entire evolution, which I may use in my document as well, and then I might take something away from that, this backwards K, but maybe I'll put this down here, and I'm going to reduce this in size just a little bit to try to get it to align a bit better to this copy block. Alignments are really crucial when it comes to design. Now, in order to enlarge or reduce something, I'm going to hold down Shift Command or Shift Control on a PC, Shift Command on Mac, and I can click and I can drag that picture box so that it more or less aligns with this copy on the left and right edges. Okay, and this is again a vertical or a visual alignment, so I may have to make some adjustments. I always hit the W key to see how far I'm off. It's starting to feel a little bottom heavy, and this is dark. And the symbol is supposed to be the primary focal point, which this does show the evolution of the symbol. However, I might, with a direct selection tool or the white arrow tool, go to my swatches and tint this black back a little bit. Okay, there we go. Now also in effects, now you can get effects up here, or you can get effects over here. It's the same in essence. I have these blending modes, and if you're familiar with Photoshop, you have all these different blending modes. Multiply is nice because what it does is it blends the background color with this percentage of black. So that blending mode, Multiply, does that. If it's under normal, what it does is it knocks the black out when it goes to print, knocks the black out of the background, and then overprints, then prints in that white area this percentage of black. But I really like it to kind of meld together. It's a nice look. So Multiply does that. I'm going to go back to swatches. It's 28% black. I might screen that back a little bit more. And now I'm ready to use, I think I'll use this backwards K or this cough to let me see what my percentage is real quick before I do this. This is 94%. I can't use that much bigger than what I have it as, so I might go ahead and place. You don't want to increase bitmap graphics. Photoshop TIFF is a bitmapped graphic, and if you increase the size of it, it'll pixelate. So I'm going to go get my vector-based evolution of the K, Adobe Illustrator, because vectors, you can increase their size and they do not pixelate. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to crop into this cuff. Now vectors are also lower file sizes. They don't take as much space on your computer. One of the problems with vectors, however, a lot of people get a little freaked out about how pixelated this is. And they're like, is this going to print this way? No, it will print clean as long as the image is clean in Illustrator. What Illustrator does when you save it, it saves it as an 8-bit pixel preview, and that's not very many pixels per inch. It's very low resolution. If this kind of thing is really bothersome to you, right-click on the image and go to Display Performance and set that to high quality, and it will make it much nicer. Okay, I'm going to hit Command 0. On a PC it would be Control 0, and it zooms back out. Now I want this placement of this cuff to be over this hand, as if mimicking the shape of the hand. Again, this is all based off of information that's in the body copy. The design and the typography exist to honor content, and the content is the body copy. I'm holding down Shift and Command. On a PC it would be Shift and Control, and I'm clicking and dragging to make this larger, and this keeps it in proportion too. So I think I'll park that pretty much right in this hand shape silhouette. May have to play around with its size, reducing and enlarging it to make it compositionally work out. Make sure it's juxtaposed well. I'm going to hit the W key. I want that juxtaposed well within that hand shape. This is coming along nicely. Now what would be really nice is if I had some sort of texture back there. That's something that I would have to do in Photoshop. I can't do textures easily in InDesign. But I'm getting some basic layout going on. I can always church it up and reconsider my elements when I'm going from my first draft to my finished project. So things are going to change all the time. When you're working in graphics, nothing just stays as it is. There's always changes. There we go. So there's my cuff. I might again go to Effects, make the blending mode multiply, and I'm going to take this down just a little bit to get those two to blend together, their colors. Again, the difference between the multiply blending mode and not using it at all is this does not share any of the same color as the it's two different colors. Pardon me. There we go. You could play with other blending modes just to see what they do. Screen makes it light versus dark, and then you can go in and adjust opacities there. Now opacity is different from tint. Opacity is ghosting, and tinting doesn't do a ghost, it knocks it out. Okay, so I might increase this a little bit, and I might go with that lighter color. Basically the point is to make sure that the symbol is the primary focal point. When you look at this, I would assume that you would look at this first, and the whole hand and the K, and you wonder what's going on with that backwards K, or what is that symbol? And then secondly, you might look here, and it might stem your curiosity even more, and then you might start reading it, but I do need a headline in here. There we go. You know what? I have not saved this the whole entire time I'm working on it, and that is really dangerous, because what if my computer locks up? So I better go to File, Save As, and I'm going to call this Cough, and I'm going to call it Symbol, meaning the symbol is the primary element, Symbol 1, Draft. Okay? Or I could call it Symbol Draft Number 1. And this is going to go into my Project 1 Early Letter Forms folder. I'll also have a cough symbol draft 2. I'll have a cough display draft 1, display draft 2, two different ones. And then I'll have a cough body copy draft 1, body copy draft 2. So I'll have 6 total drafts by the time I'm finished. There we go. Now, I really do need a headline on here. So I need to figure out what that's going to be. What did I title my Word document? Let me take a look. Let's see here. See how quickly it is that I can go in and find stuff? I called it History of K. Now that's a pretty boring title, but for now I'll just go with that. And I'll hit the W key. And I usually do this out on the pasteboard. Again, I try not to, once I do backgrounds and stuff, I end up going out here to the pasteboard and working, and I'll bring it in. So I'm going to typeset history of the letter K. Whoops, not D, K. There we go. Now, this I don't think is typeset in Garamond, so let's double check. It's probably back into something default like Minion Pro. So I want to make sure, again, you want to do 3 clicks or 4 clicks to get this. Grab it and go ahead and get whichever typeface you're working on. And I need to, again, make sure it's Adobe Garamond Pro. And I don't care what size it is yet. I can always modify this. I do care about the size of the type box. I always nudge that in. This is the title, so I'm going to capitalize the most important words. Of the doesn't need to be capitalized in that case. The other thing I might do is I might go ahead and make this either semi-bold or bold. Now the bounding box needs to be expanded. There we go. Now I'm zooming out, Command 0, for those of you guys who are on a PC, Control 0. And then I'm going to increase the size of this really quickly again by holding Shift and Command. And then oops, excuse me, I accidentally clicked on the little box that is for flowing text. Shift Command and click and drag, and I now have my headline. Hit the W key, see what it looks like. This is supposed to be de-emphasized as compared to this, so I might take this down a little bit. I also am looking at this the way the thumb comes up, and I might go ahead and see how this comes up and then goes up into this headline. It's a visual sort of path. I'm taking advantage of that so that so that you have this kind of flow. Okay. Now it's got a lot of white space up here, not as much down here. So I'm going to go to my layers panel. My background is locked, and this tool, this selection tool, is contact sensitive. So if I go out here into the pasteboard and I click and I hold the mouse down and drag, I can grab all of the elements that are on the other 2 layers, the artwork layer and the body copy layer. I'm going to hit the W, and I might move those up a little bit because I'm trying to get this to have a little bit better balance. Now, let's see, make sure I still have enough of a bleed on the hand object, and make sure that if it bleeds off the top, it's not too annoying. I'm not so sure I want that bleeding off the top with the fingers like that. Might have it tight and touching, but not bleeding. There we go. Now I have issues. Every time it's a domino effect. Every time you move one thing, other things move. Now I'm going to click and drag over these again. I'm going to nudge these up a little bit more. And what I'm looking for here is I want to make sure there's plenty of bleed. Now, seems like I could go a little bit more. So again, I'm going to click and drag over everything. And if I hold down the Shift key and then the arrow up key, it'll go a lot quicker for me as far as the position of things. That feels better, feels a little bit more balanced. The only problem is the hand is it's too cropped off. So I'm going to again hold down Shift and Command, and I click and drag on the node to bring it down in proportion. And this K, it stayed the same size the whole time, so I may have to worry about adjusting it too. There we go. Now, back to this. Does anything skip over and go into the space? No, but I do have a thing called a widow. I got another widow here. You want to kill, I know this sounds really horrible. A widow is an excessively short line at the end of a paragraph, and I have one here and here. I have 2 widows. There's also things called orphans, and an orphan is an excessively short end of a paragraph that's gone over to another column. So if you had 2 columns of text, see if I can get an orphan here. I'll try to force an orphan. 2 columns of text. Oops, excuse me. This text right here would be considered orphaned, meaning it's the last line of a paragraph that goes on to the next column. Usually you don't want that. Sometimes it's really short too, but you don't want to do that, so you do want to try to manage orphans and widows. Now, the phrase that you'll hear if you're out in the real world is kill your widows and orphans. And I know that sounds just malicious and horrible, but that's what we do. We kill the orphans and the widows. And one way we can do this is by shortening the text box a little bit. There we go. I'm going to hit the W key, make sure I'm still good. No red box. Good. Now I have some more work to do. So this is, I'm fine-tuning some things. I don't necessarily enjoy all this white space out here. I want it to flow into the hand. I also need to, now that I've shortened this box, hold down Shift and Command or Shift and Control, and I need to reduce the size of this, maybe. Well, I don't know. Let me hit Command Z. Let's see how this goes. Now, maybe I do want this to stop here. Oh, geez, what do I want? And I want this to wrap. If that's the case, then it's going to get a little bit more complicated. So I have to think this through. You know, do I want to go ahead and just take these objects, the hand and the, okay, move them in a bit, which doesn't look that bad actually. And then go ahead and expand this box out a little bit. Oh, there's my orphans, or widows rather. Oh, I've got the widow there too. I'm getting widows right and left. Sometimes when I was working with editors, they would rewrite the copy to kill the widows and orphans. Okay, so this is better. I still have a widow there. Maybe I review what I'm doing with this grid, and maybe I break the grid a little bit. That's the cool thing about something like this. It's not multiple page documents, so who's to say that this is, you know, I'm not being consistent in using this grid. You wouldn't know. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Now, again, one problem solved creates another problem. So I'm going to have to make some adjustments to my graphics to make them visually appear as if they're lining up a little bit better with the type and with everybody's got to play nice with everybody else. Okay, it's still too big. Again, this is Shift and Command, and on a PC, Shift Control. All right, so we're getting there. Still feels a little bottom heavy, so I might grab just a few elements and adjust them. Oh, I'm getting widows back. Let me bring that back down, actually. Could bring that up a little bit more so that second line of the second paragraph doesn't wrap around the thumb. There we go. This is looking better. Still have this major widow. So there are ways to kill the widow. One of the ways is to tighten up that paragraph 4 clicks. And what I'll do is I'll adjust the tracking. Tracking is the fine-tune adjustment. Well, it's the same adjustment of space between all characters. Now 10 I don't usually do. I'll start out with like 2 and see if that works. There we go. 10 is really, really tight. And it worked out just fine. Now, the more I play around with this layout, if I move some things around, well, that will change. So I'm going to have to adjust that adjustment one more time. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to move this down just a little bit. It's just a smidge. Oh, created that problem. Solve one problem, you create another. I'm going to grab the hand, bump these little guys up. This is the text wrap. The text wrap padding lines. These are that. Okay, there we go. And, oh darn it, more widow. This widow is killing me. The widow's killing me, but I need to kill the widow. Sounds really horrible. So I'll make that -3. There we go. Okay. Now, I think now I almost would like to have everything moved down just a little bit. So, again, these are just fine-tune adjustments. Okay, so for a draft, this might do, but if I wanted to do some textural things to the background, maybe play around a little bit more, I might create a couple of different variations of drafts. I also might do different color variations. So, you know, this draft may not stick looking like this. It may change, and it should usually change a little bit as I keep growing. Okay, so here is my first draft of one of my first drafts. You're required to do 2 of a layout about the history of the letter K, and speaking more in tone about cough. And it's a first draft, and I'm ready to save it. Again, PDF it or JPEG it. Problem with PDFs is we're seeing online that when you open a PDF from InDesign, it doesn't put things in the right place. It's really bad. So you might be better off to JPEG these. So let me go to File. Let me see if in Save As I have the JPEG option. You don't. So let me cancel that. Let me go to File and Export and see if I have the JPEG option here. There it is. So I'm going to save it as a JPEG. So this is cough symbol draft number 1. This means the page, how many pages. I only have 1 page. If you had more, you could tell it. Quality, I want to go ahead and put this as high quality. And resolution, let's go ahead and put that at 300 so when you guys get them, they're not so bad. 150 might do as well, but 300 lets me know if you're working in the right resolutions. And RGB is fine because we're going to look at it on the screen. I turn anti-alias off. What that anti-aliasing does is it softens the edges of things like text and sharp graphics. So turn anti-alias off, hit export. Now it went to that folder where I was working from. If you need to know how to do a PDF, which I use PDFs all the time, and in class we do them all the time, and I send them to the printers all the time, we would go to File, Adobe PDF Preset, High Quality Print. And it will, if you need to find the folder that you're going into, it will name it, whatever it's going to name it there, hit Save. And I wouldn't change a lot here unless you need crop marks. Crop marks let you know where to cut it out, but we're not, since we're not in a face-to-face class, we're not doing a lot of printing. So if I'm not printing, I don't turn crop marks on. And if I'm sending this to a client, I don't give them a high quality. I give them the smallest file size because I don't want them to take it and print it and not have paid me. So make sure for clients you do smallest file size, but for class high quality print, hit export, and I will close this. I will go to my folder for this class. Let's see, type. And here I have, let me just go into this view. Project 1 Early Letter Forms. I have my Word document, my InDesign document, a JPEG, and a PDF. I always open the JPEGs and PDFs to make sure they're working. Okay, so here's my JPEG. And here is my PDF. It's going to open in Acrobat here just in a second. All right. And I will post, I'll go ahead and show you how to post. Well, you know how to post, but I would probably post the JPEG. So you would include this as a single attachment. If you did both of your drafts in InDesign as a 2-page document, you would just have drafts 1 and 2 in the same document. So it might be cough symbol draft 1 and 2. Okay, so that concludes at least the way I've approached this design. The demonstration of how to put together a draft. I'm sure you have many other techniques that you may understand how to use in Photoshop and things like that. But ultimately, things need to be placed in InDesign, So if you do something really cool in Photoshop, like a background, that's fine. But I would not build this with a textured background in Photoshop and then over the top of that the hand, because in InDesign I need to move that hand. You've seen me move it many times. Um, so make sure that you don't use Photoshop or Illustrator as your that doesn't seem like it's bright enough, so I'm trying to brighten it up a little bit. Don't use Photoshop and Illustrator as your design layouts, design software. Those are to create illustrations, which this hand is an illustration, this cough is an illustration, these are illustrations, or they're meant to do photo manipulation, but they're not meant to do layouts. Even though that some people use it as that, that's not really what they're for. The digital pasteboard is in design. So you notice I did not put this in Photoshop on top of that, and this on top of this in Photoshop, and the hand on top of background. Okay, everything should be individual pieces of art that you can bring into InDesign, unless you can find no other way to deal with it. Okay, so hopefully this helps you manage maybe one of how you might handle some of your drafts. Thanks, and I'll give you another video on maybe the body copy part of it to discuss more about grids. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.